You are listening to Serve, Lead, Scale, from spiritual fumes to strategic expansion. I am Bishop Dr. Loretta Sanders, Senior Pastor, Leadership Architect, and the person who is going to tell you what no one else in your circle has been willing to say. You were not called to survive your ministry. You were called to scale it. Every episode, we build. Let's go. After a leader builds the structure, fixes the delegation, and gives their team real authority, there is a moment that no leadership course warned you about. The team is moving. Decisions are being made at the right level. The bottleneck is gone. You have done the hard work. And then someone on your team makes a decision that goes completely in the wrong direction. Not because they lacked authority, not because they were not capable, because they did not have a clear enough picture of where they were supposed to go with the authority you gave them. I have sat across from leaders in that moment more times than I can count. The confusion on their face is always the same. They did everything right, and something still went sideways. In almost every case, the problem was not the structure. The structure was working. The problem was the signal. The vision was not clear enough to travel without the leader in the room. Last week, we fixed the structure. We released authority and built the architecture to hold it. Today, we fix the signal, because delegation without clarity does not produce freedom. It produces well-intentioned drift. And well-intentioned drift is one of the most exhausting things a leader can manage, because everyone is trying hard and moving in slightly different directions simultaneously. A vision that requires us to be in the room for it to stay alive is not a vision. It is a performance. Vision that travels is vision that has been made plain. Today, I want to take you to a man who rebuilt an entire city wall in 52 days, not by inspiring a crowd, not by delivering the most powerful speech of his generation, but by giving his team the clearest picture of the gap that anyone had given them in over a century. His name is Nehemiah, and what he understood about vision is still the most practical leadership lesson in all of Scripture. Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 3. And they said to me, the survivors who are left from the captivity in the province are there in great distress and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem is also broken down, and its gates are burned with fire. This is the moment everything begins, not with a vision of what Jerusalem could become, with a precise description of what Jerusalem currently is. Here is the first thing I want us to see. Nehemiah does not start with inspiration. He starts with evidence. The wall is broken down. The gates are burned with fire. He hears this report and he sits with it for 4 months. He prays, he fasts, he prepares. He does not rush to Jerusalem and call a town hall. He waits until he has a vision so specific he can present it to a pagan king in a single conversation and ask for exactly what he needs to execute it. Most leaders who struggle with vision clarity skip this step entirely. They feel the call, they see the destination, and they cast the vision before they have done the work of translating it into something specific enough to hand to another person. They inspire the team with the dream and then wonder why the team cannot move without them. Nehemiah did the translation work first. He counted the cost. He planned the route. He named the materials. And when the moment came, he was ready. Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 1 through 8. When King Artaxerxes asks what Nehemiah wants, Nehemiah does not say, I just need your blessing and God will do the rest. He asks for letters of safe conduct to the governors of the regions he needs to pass through. He asked for timber from the royal forest, specific timber for the gates, the wall, and the residence. He gives a timeline. He has already thought through every obstacle before he opens his mouth in the king's presence. That is the test of a clear vision. It can survive a skeptic's questions. If the vision falls apart the moment someone asks how, it was never clear enough to travel. The king in this story is not just a source of resources, he is a stress test, and Nehemiah's vision passed. Now, here is the moment that changes everything. Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 17 and 18.
Then I said to them, "You see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lies waste and its gates are burned with fire? Come and let us build the wall of Jerusalem, that we may no longer be a reproach." And I told them of the hand of my God, which had been good upon me, and also of the king's words that he had spoken to me. So they said, "Let us rise up and build." Then they set their hands to this good work. In 4 sentences, Nehemiah communicates a vision that rebuilds a city wall in 52 days. And he does it with 3 specific elements: not inspiration, not emotion, not persuasion. 3 elements. The first element, he names the evidence. You see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lies waste. The gates are burned with fire. He does not ask them to imagine the problem. He points to the one in front of them, visible, specific, undeniable. He names the gap so precisely that the need to close it becomes obvious. The second element, he names the source of confidence, the hand of my God, which had been good upon me, the king's words that he had spoken to me. He does not ask the people to trust his optimism. He gives them something they can point to: divine favor, demonstrated, not just claimed, royal authorization, documented, not just assumed. When the work gets hard, and it always does, people do not have to rely on feeling inspired. They can point to the evidence of God's provision and the king's authorization. That is something that holds under pressure. The third element, he gives a specific invitation. Come and let us build the wall of Jerusalem. Not the city, not the nation, not the full restoration of everything that was lost. The wall. One specific, visible, measurable project. Every person who heard that invitation knew exactly what they were being asked to build. And in Nehemiah chapter 3, one of the most underread chapters in all of leadership literature, every family, every group, every individual is assigned their specific section: the sheep gate, the fish gate, the old gate, the valley gate. Names and sections, specific assignments that could be executed without Nehemiah standing at each location explaining what to do. Nehemiah did not inspire people to rebuild the wall. He gave them such a clear picture of the gap and such a specific assignment that rebuilding became the only logical response. And they rose up and built in 52 days. Now I want to give you the framework Nehemiah used, because it works in a church office, in a ministry team meeting, just as powerfully as it worked on the ruins of Jerusalem. A vision is clear enough to travel when it passes 3 tests. I want us to walk through each one honestly. Test 1. Can your team name the gap? Not the destination, the gap. Every member of your team should be able to answer this question clearly. What is the specific problem this ministry exists to solve? What is the broken wall in the lives of the people we serve? Not the inspiring version of the answer, the honest, specific, visible version. Here is how to find out. Ask 3 people on your team separately, today or this week. What is the specific problem this ministry exists to solve? Listen to the answers. Do not coach them before they respond. The variation in their answers is the exact measure of your vision clarity gap. If every person gives you a substantially different answer, the gap has not been named with enough precision to carry itself. Nehemiah did not give Jerusalem a vision of a beautiful future city. He gave them a picture of a broken wall. The gap was so specific that every person could see exactly what needed to change. Test 2. Can your team name the source of confidence? Not optimism, evidence. When the work gets hard, when a volunteer leaves, when the attendance drops, when the budget comes in short, what does your team lean on? Nehemiah gave his people 2 things: the hand of God, demonstrated through provision, and the king's authorization, documented in letters. In your context, the sources will look different, but they need to be named out loud. If the only source of confidence in your organization is your personal belief and energy, the vision will not survive your worst season because your energy has limits, your presence has limits, and a team that is anchored only to the leader's conviction will wobble every time the leader wobbles. What is the documented evidence that this ministry is called and equipped for this work? What has God done that you can point to? Name it, say it out loud, put it somewhere your team can see it. That is not pride. That is the second element of a portable vision. Test 3. Can your team name their section of the wall? This is the one most leaders miss. Not the whole vision, their part. Every person on your team should be able to answer this question without coming to you first. What am I responsible for building right now? What is my specific, visible, this season assignment? When this is unclear, we see 2 things happen. Capable people step on each other's work because the boundaries are not defined. And other capable people wait for direction because they are not sure their section of the wall is their decision to build. Nehemiah chapter 3 resolved this before a single stone was placed. Every person knew their gate. Every family knew their section. The work could proceed simultaneously across multiple locations without Nehemiah physically present at each one, because the assignment was specific enough to execute independently. In your context, this might look like a documented role description that actually matches what the person does. A ministry plan that assigns initiatives to specific people with specific timelines. A team meeting that ends with every person naming what they are building before the week is over. When every person on your team can name the gap, the source of confidence in their section of the wall, your vision has become portable. It no longer requires us to carry it alone. It carries itself. Now, let me name the 3 ways vision clarity breaks down in practice, because naming the framework is not enough if we do not also see where it typically falls apart. The first is vision by inspiration only. The leader communicates with genuine passion and genuine energy. The team leaves the meeting feeling something. And 1 week later, when someone has to make a real decision about where to allocate a resource or how to handle a volunteer conflict, they cannot connect that decision back to the vision clearly enough to make the call with confidence. Inspiration without specificity has a shelf life of approximately 72 hours. After that, the team defaults to whatever they were already doing. The fix is for us to end every vision communication with a simple test. Can every person leaving this room answer all 3 questions? If not, you have not finished communicating. You have only started. The second is vision that lives only in the leader's head. The leader has an extraordinarily clear vision. They have carried it for years. They can see it in extraordinary detail, but they have never externalized it in a form that someone else can hold without them. They assume the team sees what they see. The team does not. They see the outline. They see the emotion. They do not see the specificity. This is not a failure of leadership talent. It is a failure of translation. The vision that lives only in the leader's head requires the leader to be present every time a significant decision is made. That is not vision clarity. That is organizational dependency with a compelling story around it. Write it down. Make it visible. Say it until it feels redundant, because the moment it feels redundant to you is approximately the moment it begins to take root in your team. The third is vision without a current wall to build. The vision is inspiring. The gap is named. The source of confidence is real, but there is no specific, visible project that the team is building right now. The team believes in the vision, but has no wall to point to this week. This is where momentum quietly dies, not in cynicism, but in the gap between belief and action. Every vision needs a current, specific, visible, assigned project that embodies it right now. Not the full dream, the next section of wall. What is your team building this season that they can point to? If they cannot point to it, find it, name it, assign it. That is where the vision lives until the larger thing is built. Here is your reflection question for this episode. If you were not in the room, would your team know what to build next? Not who to call, not who to ask, what to build. Sit with that honestly. Your answer tells you everything about how portable your vision is right now. The Ministry Capacity Micro Audit at youcanfaith.com/leadership has a vision clarity section. It gives you a structured way to assess all 3 tests with your team. Download it free at youcanfaith.com/leadership. The link is in the show notes. I want to close today by acknowledging something. You have done 6 weeks of hard work. You named the structural problems most leaders never talk about. You built the delegation architecture, and now you are doing the work of making your vision clear enough that someone else can carry it without losing it. That is the work of a builder, not a manager, not a survivor, a builder. And that is what we are. The wall Nehemiah built stood for generations. Not because Nehemiah was extraordinary, but because he gave ordinary people an extraordinary clarity about what they were building and why. Every person knew their gate. Every family knew their section. The vision was in the stones, not just in the one who cast it. That is what we are building toward. A ministry that outlasts any one leader's energy, because the vision has been made plain enough to live in the work itself. Next week, we're going to talk about what happens after you have given your team a clear vision and real authority, and you still need to know the work is getting done the right way. How to maintain accountability without becoming the micromanager you never wanted to be. Episode 7, Accountability Without Micromanagement. This is Serve,
lead, scale. From spiritual fumes to strategic expansion. I am Bishop Dr. Loretta Sanders, and I will see you next week.